Hi everyone, this is the Absolute Business Mindset podcast. I've got here Andy Arter. Please check me out on various places to get the podcast. I'll talk at the end where you can find me, but also on YouTube. We've got the camera there. So Andy, you're a podcaster. You have an online magazine. You do various sales and marketing. So why did your podcast is about wealth and health?
Yes.
So why have the distinction and why use them both together?
Well, at the time, way back yonder, it must have been about 18 months ago, I was trying to improve my health a lot. I'd had a few health issues, getting into your 50s like I am. I know I don't look it, but you know what I mean. You're getting into your 50s and you get these things pop into your mind. It's a strange time, Mark, So, I'd had a few health issues, things like diabetes, where my blood sugar levels were getting up towards diabetic levels. My fitness was dying off, so I'd go for a jog. It might be 8-10 miles back in the day, and might be fine with that. But my knees were getting bad, so those runs that I used to be able to do, I couldn't do so well, and I was putting on weight and having lots of different issues. Still am having those issues.
Well, we all.
I am probably somebody, you might be dragged into this as well, that is destined to have these issues unless, and this is what I did about it, and it's helped me for the podcast, I created routine.
Yes.
Okay, so I set myself up that I'm going to have routines where I'm going to do well, and I lost 2.5 stone in, it's actually 30 pounds. 30 pounds in 3 months.
Right. Oh, wow.
90 days.
Yeah.
Just by the routine, to be honest with you. There was, get up in the morning, do exercise.
Right. So that's interesting. So did you specifically just incorporate exercise into your morning routine, or did you think about your morning routine in total?
I thought that if I got up and did exercise, and obviously it could increase as I got fitter and better, and I could tell some people about it on the podcast, etc. That I could keep a regime going where I could lose weight, get healthier, get fitter, my blood sugars would go down, some of the health issues that I were having would go away.
Yeah.
And believe it or not, some of them did.
Right.
But what I did find also was that I had to do it as in just get up and do it, don't think about it.
Yeah.
And when I did that, I had to get up an hour earlier to do it.
Right.
Change of lifestyle, change of the house, the way we had the house laid out and stuff like that. We're in a room now that used to be a garage, as I was telling you earlier.
Yeah.
And I used to exercise in that garage, and it was a lot quieter. And I had running machine in here and things like that. So if I didn't go running, but I got on the running machine for 6 minutes and ran as fast as I could. I've not been doing so much of that, and it affects your mental health as well as your physical health.
Yeah.
So we were talking on the podcast about mental, and ultimately I attracted some health professionals. So we had some really, we'll talk about this no doubt as we go on.
Yeah.
I mean, we've had some high profile people come on the podcast that are people on telly, people that have won the World Cup, professional footballers, bodybuilding champions of the UK.
And did you find across those on sort of the health side, was there particular commonalities between them, from a World Cup winner to a bodybuilder? Was it a mindset that was always the same?
Yep. First things first. Yeah, mindset. Get your mindset right. And like I was doing the just get up and do it type stuff. And guess what? 90 days later, there I am, two and a bit stone down and feeling much fitter and healthier. But I mean, those guys have the same issues that we do as well. You get up close and personal, you talk to them, and they're worried about stuff the same as we do. Even though we had a guy. He was Sam Slack. He's a 2 times natural bodybuilding champion of the UK. So he's tested a lot. There's no drugs involved. This guy is rippling with muscles from head to toe, and if you see the work that he puts in, now you know why this guy's got muscles. Most people couldn't do it, and he's not a huge guy either. Most people could not do what he does for one day, let alone ongoing. So the barbells that you do on your arm, you know what they call them, barbells, dumbbells?
Dumbbells,
50 kilos he does those with. So I mean, I don't think I can pick 50 kilos up. But he's had to work up from that because he's a guy, funnily enough, that when he's not training well, he puts on a load of weight.
Really?
And his muscle definition
That's probably the
completely
calories,
goes.
isn't it? It's the calories he's eating every day. He needs to work out.
Yeah.
But from your point of view, did you find the doing it in the morning was critical
Yes,
to the process?
partly because I trying to do a little bit more at the moment, and I'm trying to do that at night because mornings are not good for us at the moment. My daughter started work; she's up nice and early, so we're getting. We don't want to wake the whole household up. Bashing it. We're already bashing and crashing. We get up about 5 in the morning sometimes.
Right, okay, great,
So we don't want to be bashing and crashing, and waking everybody else up that wants that extra couple of hours in bed. You know, so. You have to end up doing things for your lifestyle of the family.
Yeah.
And it doesn't really work at the moment. So I end up doing the exercise at night. Yeah. If I haven't eaten too much, if I've not come in too late, if. And I'm losing that routine, of course. And of course you start eating worse because whilst you're doing the exercise, you think, well, I've just done all that exercise. I can't eat that snack bar. But other than that, you go, snack bar gone. 300 calories and a load of fat. Number one, I fancy another one. It could be as easy as that. You've done 600 calories. Look round at the end of the week and you put a pound or two on.
Yeah. So one of the things I find, the reason why I try and do regular exercise 2 or 3 times a week is for my mental health.
Yes.
I see them directly linked, and
they are.
My strength and my mental health, I think, is based upon doing regular exercise.
Yep.
So the endorphins, obviously, but also just as I said, it's a mindset of eating healthier, feeling better.
Yeah, definitely.
Have you experienced that either personally or through the interviews you've done?
I've touched on mental health a fair few times. I had a professional footballer come on the show, Tony Kelly, and Tony had a mental health issue, and he brought along a pal of his who was a very successful guy at ITV. And he worked his way right through the ranks, and he was actually like a program controller as director of shows, including football, funnily enough. And those guys did a show together. We had 4,000 people watch the YouTube video overnight.
Brilliant!
It was quite a successful thing. Tony was a gambler. So if he'd have earned more money than Wayne Rooney, he'd have spent more money than he earned.
Yeah. You do hear that, don't you?
Yes. It didn't matter what he earned, really. So he was playing, I think his most lucrative club was when he played on the wing for Stoke City. And he played in the cup final and won the League Cup for Stoke City. And I say the money side of it, he would have spent more whatever he earned. So it didn't really matter, but he had a problem, and now he's got a gambling addiction charity where he helps other people to try and get their gambling under control. And John Thompson, who was the ITV director, he is 8 years dry just before when we done the podcast. Yeah. So he was a drinker, and John was drinking huge amounts of drink. 4 bottles of wine a day, plus any spirits and lager that he could lay his hands on. And it was all in secret. His wife didn't even know he was doing it. And the mental health side of it, John tried to kill himself. Tony said he got massively depressed, and
was there something that in their life that changed, that they had to go dry, they had to stop gambling? Is there always a moment? Or because I always think my development on my mental health and my physical health is incremental. It's small steps to your larger goal. But you often hear from people telling stories about you have to hit rock bottom. There's something that twists your life.
Definitely. John Thompson said he had to hit rock bottom. He'd lost his job at ITV by then, although they tried to help him quite a lot, apparently. So he'd lost his wife, lost his job, he'd hit rock bottom, tried to kill himself twice, and it was homeless. We couldn't make this stuff up. From an executive position to homeless, trying to kill himself. The drink had got to him. He wasn't the person that ultimately he could have been. So he could have gone on to bigger and better things. He'd already risen right through the ranks and done really well. He hit rock bottom. Tony, I think, pretty much towards the same. This guy had owned houses and big cars, etc., and he'd lost them because of his gambling, and any money that he'd accrued just went. So, and they had to make changes,
Yeah.
And they're not perfect people even now. You think John's probably one drink away from
starting again.
And Tony could
well.
be the same with the gambling. You just don't know. And we're all the same, really, because we've all got our own issues. And the mental side of what we do, when I talk to these top sports people, and I'm fortunate enough to know a top sports psychologist as well. I've had a few sessions with him. Can't talk about it, unfortunately, too much, because he's very secretive with his clients that he works for. But even so, these people are having the same issues that we have.
Right.
They just find ways to overcome them.
I suppose, like, for example, a footballer might have self-doubt.
They have tons of it.
Right.
Yes,
right.
Absolutely. We think every game they lose, every penalty they miss, every kick that they make that doesn't go well, self-doubt, it's just a matter of how they overcome it.
And from a mental health point of view, I think it's like, from a footballer point of view, they're in the limelight. They have supporters, they have people who watch TV, they have pundits all available to criticise.
Yes. Everyone's a critic.
Well, exactly. It's the thing from a non footballer. You might get your self-doubt might be internally.
Yes.
Equally, now everyone is opened up on Twitter and Facebook and Instagram. That gives trolls the opportunity to hit mental health.
Definitely.
I think there are similarities even from the top flight people to what people experience in everyday life as well.
Yeah, I think you're right. I mean, the story is behind every professional athlete of doubt and overcoming things, inner confidence and self-belief becoming more important than anything, because they can't train to their ultimate level unless their mind's right.
Yeah.
So, and it's exactly the same in business, by the way, Mark. Once again, inner confidence, and we did a little session here yesterday. We had an event, and one of the things we talked about was inner confidence and how you build it.
Yeah.
And how the professional athletes that I know, how they build their own inner confidence as well. Yeah. And some of it is just sheer bloody mindedness. They won't give in. They will not give in. Some people. Yeah.
And that's the robustness. That's the strength. Yeah. It's the character of people, isn't it?
Yeah.
Well, we'll come back to the podcast in a minute. Let's just you talk about your course that you had yesterday.
Yes.
So I believe it's sales and marketing.
Yeah, we call it SAM. So it's sales and marketing success. I touch on some of the things that I've done over the last 35 years. We've managed to be fortunate enough to deal with some of the biggest companies in the country.
Right.
So if you think of the really big names, we've likely to have done something with them or someone similar.
And so on that, do you coach people in their organisations? Because I know you've got the guys here that come, but are they entrepreneurs or are they?
Yes, I'm sort of working with small business people and entrepreneurs. So I try and help them, because the marketing we do as well, it's, if I was perhaps able to talk to them about TV advertising or, huge advertising in magazines, then you're talking about hundreds of thousands of pounds. And the people that we're with have not got that kind of money. So we're talking about kind of guerrilla tactics. How you get something that massively over and achieving, over and above what you should be doing.
And do you use social media? Is that part of the, because that's a lot cheaper than TV advertising, even magazine advertising.
Completely free, of course. Yes.
Exactly. So, is that part of your program?
Well, some of the stuff we touched on yesterday was the freebies would be things like your social media, Facebook, LinkedIn's, and those kind of platforms.
Yeah.
And how the best to use them. Even if you're using paid adverts, the kind of stuff that you need to be doing to get to your niche. Because I've seen plenty of people waste a lot of money. So there was a guy that I knew, he had a property event near to London, and he put his advert out to go across the whole country. Now the likelihood is that somebody in Scotland who could be hugely interested in his kind of event is not going to travel down from the Outer Hebrides down towards London to his event, So it was a bit of a whack. So we had to, kind of talk about what works and what doesn't.
Yeah.
And then we also talk about face-to-face sales even, and how you can make sales with big companies or your ideal client, even though they don't know you, who you are or what you do.
Okay, let's just keep on social media just for a minute, because
Yes.
with if someone's listening or watching this and,
Yep.
and they want to try and raise their brand, raise their profile on
Yep.
social media, what are the quick and easy, or the hacks? What's the quick easy wins that they can try out? Because I think a lot of this is testing and see if
Yeah.
it works, and then if it doesn't work, tweak it or whatever. So
Definitely. I mean, let's have a look at some of the people that I know that have done successful things on, let's call it social media. Yeah. So my daughter, even, she's got a couple of million people that have viewed her YouTube videos.
Okay, yeah.
We spoke about it yesterday amongst us all. It's the same old thing: good content,
Yep.
good content,
Yeah.
and good content. Yeah, you got it. Yeah. So if you get, no matter what platform you're on, if you give good content, people will be interested. But then, of course, some platforms are geared for a certain type of content. YouTube, obviously, for videos. Yeah. You start putting things that are audio on there, they don't like it, and it doesn't really work anyway.
Yeah.
So you have to tailor your good content to that particular
So
market.
let's just home in on YouTube for a minute.
Yes.
So I read somewhere or heard somewhere on a podcast that you should be on YouTube, it should be 10 minutes plus. You shouldn't be doing anything less than 10 minutes, because because essentially YouTube is TV.
That's completely not true.
Okay.
There's one guy, an American guy, I think his name's Brian Moran. He teaches how you use a 5-minute video sales letter, VSL, and 22 points that you use to put out a 5-minute video.
Right.
If it's good content, it's the same old thing. It can be 30 seconds. You can drag someone into your world within 30 seconds with intrigue, or a huge, wow, look at this. You're going to look if it's, so it doesn't matter how long it is. Probably optimal. You'd probably be right with, with a certain amount of videos. And if you're averaging things out and talking about, the best ways to do things, you're probably right. But it doesn't have to be.
Okay.
And also, of course, there's always the exception to prove the rule. There's always someone doing something new and different.
Yeah.
So,
So if you're going to use one social media, you say you prioritise one social media. I include YouTube in this as well. So sort of Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, Snapchat, YouTube. If I wanted to go into one to raise my audience, raise my profile, and anyone else here, which one would you use? Which one would you say is now?
Depends on the person and whether they're comfortable with video or they'd rather write things. It can be a blog.
Could be a blog,
Or whether they just want to use audio, in which case it could be maybe a podcasting. So it's all about the individual, really.
Okay.
However, having said that, the thing that's hot at the moment in general is video. So if you produce a video, and you can put it out on various platforms. Yeah. So, and each one, it might have to be different, because certain ones, certain amount of minutes, you can only put out a certain amount of time on certain ones. I don't know the exact times off the top of my head. And this part of it is not really my 100% forte. Okay. It's more my son's who helps me do the events. Right. But, I mean, that's a individual thing.
Okay, and so the more, if I say traditional sales and marketing, when you actually face-to-face, business to business,
that's my kind of thing.
Right. Okay, great. Well, let's explore that then. What would you say? What's the reoccurring theme that you try and share with people about the more traditional sales and marketing?
Right. Well, I try to say to people, you need to create a relationship. Okay, you don't 100% need to create a relationship. You could say, here's my product, do you like it? Yes or no? Yep. Great, you want it? Fantastic. It can be as easy as that. The kind of products, goods and services that I sell, I require repeat business. Right. So if I was selling double glazing, it's probably once every 20 years. Different from if you're selling a product that you'd like to sell to someone every single day of their life. Right. Yeah. So I want ongoing relationships. That's much more important to me than anything else. And from those relationships, you can create a customer lifetime value, of course. So how are you going to do that? Well, how do you create relationships? The difference between someone knocks on my door now and they're selling something, we're busy, we're doing this, they're going to I'm going to give them short, sharp shrift and sorry, not got time for it, not interested, can you go?
Yeah.
If it was a family member that knocked on the door while we're doing this now, I'd say, look, come on in, make yourself a cuppa, I'll put the kettle on for you, let's get you comfy, sit tight for a little while, we're just doing something, and we'll come back to you in a little while. So it's a totally different thing. And you've got to be with that relationship if you can, especially if you want to sell to people ongoing and an ongoing relationship. You've got to make it so that they're more like the family rather than the one-off salesperson.
So it's interesting. In my area of business, it's all about relationships.
Yes.
It's all about building relationships, maintaining relationships. Just a sort of real side. What happens if you don't like the person, but you still want to sell to them, or they may be a little bit distasteful? Would you stop selling to them, or would you say, for a short term, sale? I
talk about ideal clients versus avatar clients, because I'm not really interested in avatar clients.
Okay.
Is the truth of it all.
Okay.
So people talk about avatars. To me, that's James Cameron's little blip.
yeah.
So you want your ideal clients if you can. So if you've got an opportunity to pick and choose, hence why we've ended up dealing with the biggest companies in the country. I could stand before you and say that I deal with Dave Smith down the road as a builder, but I don't. So I can say, Tesco's, Ford, Coca-Cola, people like that, average over 20 years apiece with some huge companies.
Yeah.
How can we do that? Because we started off a relationship with somebody, and quite often they move companies to another one, which means the person moves, and because I've got a relationship with them, I get the new account at the new big company.
Yeah.
So
that's really interesting. I'm going to flip back onto what else you do. So you do an online magazine which is for health and wealth as well. So do you edit that, or do you write on it, or both?
What we do is we record it as a podcast, as a standard podcast. We may even use some of the interview in the magazine with the permission of the people.
Yeah.
We do repurpose it in all sorts of places.
Yeah.
So it can go out wherever. And of course, you want to re-advertise your own podcast. So you might put little snippets out onto social media to say this is what this person did. So we're lucky at the moment. The people that are coming on the show, the wealth of the people is going up and up and up.
Right.
So we just interviewed Rob Moore, the disruptive entrepreneur, otherwise known as. Rob owns and manages 850 houses. He's got 3 world records for speaking, and he's a 5 times best-selling author.
Yeah, very busy, isn't he?
He's a busy guy, yeah. So kindly enough, we got an interview with Rob. We've got, I can't talk about one of them. He's pretty huge too in that circle, at least. And we've got a guy that's on the TV that we're talking to.
Right,
he's quite well known on a very popular show that's on regularly.
Maybe we'll speak about it afterwards. So from a skill set point of view, would you say the podcast and the magazine are similar skills that you're using, or do you see I'm not a big writer myself. Right. I much preferred audio and video as well. But I'm trying to write a book, and it's one of those that you've got to find a specific time to sit down and block yourself off. Where this is a little bit more fluid. You can have a conversation. You can stop. You can start. Do you find there are different skill sets that you need to do both?
No. Okay. Some of it interchanges. Some of it are totally unrelatable. Let's be honest with you. The online magazine. I'm writing articles in it myself as well, same as you might write a book, let's say, and you get the chance to have your say. But think of the online world now. I've just had a piece sent through, a great piece by the way, from a lady in the States, and she sent through her article, and it's already written out. It's part of her book that she's writing. And she sent it over and she said, could you put this into your online magazine? Yeah. So she's already done all the work. So now it's just a matter of my son that can get it and write it and put the pictures against it and move it around in the right sections and make sure that it's not, straddling pages, if you can space it nicely.
And so was that a guest? Had you spoken to her before?
No, just someone I was talking to online who basically linked up on Facebook and LinkedIn. And I mean, what a lady,
Wow.
she's doing good work over in the US, and she's written an article for the magazine. Now I haven't had to do anything, but what was that thing we were saying about earlier? Relationships. Yeah. So we've spoken a bit online.
Yeah.
And now she's provided me with an article for the magazine.
That's amazing.
Which is a good article. Yeah.
So the online magazine that I had a look at last week, it did have lots of guest writers. It wasn't just you.
Not me. No, that's right. I'm not doing the writing. No, I'll just do one little section. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And do you have a theme on your writing? I know health and wealth, but is there a particular angle you take?
No, it's my musings basically. Yeah,
Right.
whatever comes up my mind at the time that I think might be relevant for people that tries to move people on. And one of the things I've written about is aspirations. So it's just one of them things that I kind of major in on, because I feel while we was younger, with the upbringing that I had, we just didn't have the aspirations that other people around did. So that's one of the things I thought I'd talk about.
Right, I'm going to hone in on sort of upbringing in a minute.
Oh.
I just wanted to sort of touch base on how your childhood booted. But
Yeah.
the last thing, just on your podcast and your online magazine, which one do you think gives you most traction or most attention?
Podcasting.
Significantly more?
Much more.
Right, interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And is that because it's a booming industry? As you said about Rob Moore's selling you a course on how to get the best podcast. Or,
Yes.
Is online magazine, I hate to say, is it a dying medium?
No, not particularly, but it's you think you can flick through something, you're looking at pretty pictures in magazines mostly, aren't you? Who's reading every single word of an article, particularly in online magazines? I don't think there's many. You have to take this to as a marketing thing. You have to take this to a point and say, am I expecting someone to spare their time on an online magazine to read every single word that I write?
Yeah.
And it's not likely, that many people will actually do it.
Yeah.
So you're now grabbing people's attention, basically. So an online magazine, it takes up your time, but it's not going to take up their time.
Yeah.
They will flick through it.
Yeah.
And anything that grabs their eye, I think, oh, that's my kind of subject. So you might put 20 subjects in front of someone on a like a magazine, which has got 50 pages in it, let's say, and they might pick up one or two that they actually might want to read. So it's a matter of whether it's a big name person that's in now.
But I think a lot of media and medium that we do, a lot of people nowadays spend less time, as you say, they don't read from start to end on a they might not listen to all of a podcast because they're traveling and they finish their journey. And people pick, and in YouTube, success is the fact that you can jump from wealth to health to marketing and whatever your desires. Is people's habits changing over the time that you've been doing this?
I think you've got less of people's attention.
And that because more available to them.
More available, yeah. I mean, you think when I was a lad growing up, I remember Channel 4 coming out, 4 channels, good God, in 1982. So, bloody hell. 4 channels. So we only had 3 channels.
200 channels at least.
Right. Yeah, we've got Netflix. So, there's a heck of a lot of change, and that's meant that people are not even watching TV nowadays so much, So it's things like the Netflix we were saying, and YouTube's and podcasting, because that's replacing radio for me.
Yeah.
So I don't listen to the radio very much anymore.
No, me too.
Podcast, you can listen to fantastic people giving you brilliant information, even teaching you things you can make a load of money from. And they're doing it for free via a podcast. They're drawing you into their world where they might like to make some money from you in another way. Yeah. But having said that, the freebies that are on podcasts, go get them.
Yeah, 100%. 100% agree. So I spend a lot of my time when I'm traveling, listening to podcasts and listening to audiobooks as well. I like the sort of, I love the podcast because you've got an hour or 2 hours of it on the journey.
Mm-hmm.
The Audible, I use Audible, the audiobooks gives you an extra level of detail that you don't always get. And so if I want to learn about property or I want to learn about sales and marketing, I might hone in on that and spend 2 weeks to just immersing myself in that subject. So moving on from there, you touched about your schooling and your childhood. I wanted to just touch base on that and just make you think about. So you're an entrepreneur. You do various different activities within your roles, which we'll talk about a little bit further on. But what do you think there was something in your childhood, in your upbringing, in your schooling, which meant you were destined or more likely to become an entrepreneur rather than a corporate employee?
Well, I'm more of an employee than an entrepreneur, to be fair.
Okay.
So but I do entrepreneurial things even within my day job.
Okay.
So I mean, if you look back at the time that I was growing up in Tottenham on the big council estate in Tottenham, there was a lot of crime. There was a lot of characters around that you wanted to avoid. I actually had lots of fights and scraps. Before I was 14, I probably had 20 fights. Two of which were people that went on to murder people. One was on the Waco siege, and another one was part of a notorious family where all three brothers ended up killing somebody. So these characters were walking around the streets, so trying to avoid them as best you could, you know. And it's even worse for the youngsters today, somewhat. You know, instead of having scraps like we did, and it's pretty much forgotten after that. There's knives involved and all sorts of people losing their lives over stupid things. But the aspirations is the thing that I touched on earlier that got me, Mark, because we didn't have aspirations that we were going to go off and do bigger and better things. Nowadays, the equalizer is, of course, the internet. Ordinary people are doing incredible things because they've got access to markets and to people that they can get in touch with that they never ever could have done before. And we had, just to give you an idea, 9 classes, I think it was, within our school, and those 9 classes of kids produced one person that went off to university.
Wow.
But we produced more murderers than we did. We were good at that. So so we had one person that went off to university, and he didn't really want to go either. His family had told him he was going, and he had to do whatever he had to do to go. So, but it was an aspirational thing. We didn't have it. Nobody expected us to do it, so we didn't do it. And the thing was that when they took us around for job, I'm trying to think what they call it. When you go around for
a job fair, or is it?
When you go. When you go for your first job where they trial you out and you're at school still.
Experience.
That's it, work experience. So when we went to work experience, they took us around factories. Right. No one ever said, come and do this and this, high flying business and look at this stuff. No, that didn't apply to us. We were shown around big factories.
So do you think that spurred you on to try and be different outside of your childhood, what your people's expectations of you, not necessarily your expectations?
No, it did not. No, I joined the same as everybody else did. I went to get a local job and did that, and then obviously things have moved on and changed. So I did a job where it was entrepreneurial. So we had to create money.
Right.
So every day we walk into the company and it's like, right, what are we going to do today to make some money for the company? So people that have got jobs, no disrespect to them, where they're like, let's say a government job, then that doesn't come into it. Does a lot more now because they're cuts, and do we need this person? Well, that was all the time. If you're a salesperson, you're only as good as your last sale, and if the next year doesn't look rosy, then you're gone. Especially in private companies.
So did you initially your sort of first sales experience was a company with, what, 10, 20 people, and you were selling to other businesses or customers?
Yeah, we were selling to other businesses, and I worked in a very small environment. There was 4 people that worked there, but we were part of a larger organisation. So we was what they call a branch.
Right.
And we were one branch. They had 50, and they had a head office and various other departments, etc. There's probably a few hundred people that worked for the company, and I was one of my little section was 4 people. So I said to the boss the first day I was there, right, my title is branch operative. What does a branch operative do?
Yeah.
And he said, anything the boss tells you to do. So yeah, as an operative, you have to do what you and to be fair to him, he really took me under his wing, and he helped me tremendously. We still speak today, 35 years on.
Yeah.
And I couldn't have done it without him. He just helped me out, and I went from rooming with my sister. So my sister and myself, 7 years older than me. So she really wanted to be a teenage girl rooming with her brother. I'm sure, all the things that the teenage girls have. And we went from there, for me having my own room. Yeah. To which actually I could reach my arms out and touch the sides of it. Yeah. It wasn't great, but this is all relative, of course. Yeah. I feel relatively rich, although I'm not. I'm still a working guy. But we've moved on. So we then went from a studio flat to a 3-bedroom house to a 6-bedroom house to where we are now in a lovely village with we've got 7 bedrooms here if you want to mess around with the house. But as we keep messing around with it, I don't even know how many we've got now. We've knocked 2 into 1. So there's a...
So just on that, the person that helped you. So
yes.
So a sort of buzzword at the moment is mentor, and that's thrown around.
He definitely mentored me. Yeah.
And so was that? Did you even realise you were being mentored at that time?
I was being trained to do a job.
Right.
An entrepreneurial job where we were selling items to people, some of which never heard of us, some of which we were selling to against our competition, which were much bigger and better and slicker and faster, and everything that we did, they did it better.
Yeah.
So you're up against it, and yet we were still making a living, so to speak, and the company still kept us on because if you don't bring the money in, they don't keep you in anything. So it's always competition, and from that we've then gone off. Me and another guy that I helped. So he was a professional footballer and he didn't make it. So he came to work for me. He worked for me twice. And then after a little while, we'd done incredibly well. He started his own thing up. And a couple of years later, asked me if I wanted to join him. So we've been working together now for a long while. So he's done incredibly well. But so I obviously played a part in that as well. But call it mentoring. Call it training to do a job, call it what you will. If you're working in small bands, small teams of people, then you've got to get on as much as you can. You don't have to have perfect relationships. You've got a goal to achieve. It's just like football teams. All get on.
So interesting. My experience of teams, I've worked in a few different roles in my sort of corporate role, and it's weird. You don't always necessarily get on with a person, but it's actually a good skill to actually train yourself to actually get on with people that you don't not necessarily you might not go out for a beer with or you want to spend any extra time. But actually, I think that's a lot of people don't see that as a valued skill, and they just go, well, if I don't like you, go away, or I'm not going to employ you, or whatever. I actually think the sort of cooperation, and as you were saying, which started about relationships, I think it's important to be able to develop relationships. So going just on this sort of sales and developing relationships. So sales is very cutthroat. It's if you don't hit your target, you could be sacked. How do you feel, or how did you feel doing that role with that amount of pressure every month?
It's a lonely existence. Let's be honest. And the thing that we were talking about yesterday at the event was inner confidence.
Yeah.
How you build it.
Yeah.
How you build and create the confidence to be able to do things over and above what you're capable of, because you can grow. You know, your mindset can grow too.
Yeah.
And one of the techniques, we had a world champion boxer come on yesterday and give us a little bit of his. He lost a lot of the major fights that he had. There's a guy called Billy Schwer. He was world champion light welterweight, but he had 45 fights. And when he got to the very top, he's fighting the best fighters in the world. He fought for the world title 4 times. And lost the first 3. One of them was a drugs cheat, so he ended up getting another shot.
All right.
And then he won it eventually. But he could have given up. He said self-doubt was all over. And with sales, it's exactly the same.
Right.
Self-doubt is everywhere.
Yeah.
You know, you go in and it goes wrong. Yeah. Well, how do you feel when you go in and it goes right?
How many calls were you doing a week, would you say? Like, on average?
Depends. You know, depends on what you call a call as well. Because some of the stuff we do is continuity calls. Because, like I say, I'm looking for an ongoing relationship.
Yeah.
So if you was going to do set presentations, you could probably only do 2 to 4 a day.
Right.
Well, we might see 8 to 10 people.
Right.
It depends. And it depends what you're there to do as well. So if you're there to sell a product, it's different from if you're there to, let's call it, salesperson versus repping. So people call it repping in the old days. Yeah, you're representing your company.
Right.
But
was that more? So what we now call sort of branding and sort of establishing brand versus an actual salesperson selling a product or service?
Yes.
And your skill was initially
you're everything, especially way back yonder, of course, because you know you can now send people videos, emails. You know, those things didn't exist when I first started out. So it's a lot of stuff on the phone.
Were you racking up a lot of mileage on driving, or was it mainly done through phone calls?
It's a bit of both, but I mean, literally we're doing, because we're in the London area, mileage is not so much of an issue, of course, you know. So we're around about 25,000 a year, approximately, 20 to 25, probably in the middle. But it's not a matter of miles so much, because one of the things we try and do is make sure that you go to an area and in that area you see as many clients as you can, because the driving around will kill your time.
Yeah.
And you can sit in traffic jams all day long. There's plenty of them around here, Mark. You know?
So the sort of sales experience I just want to touch on this mentoring, because it's one of the things I've talked about a few times on the podcast. I think it's a very important, because I think there's people that you can always learn from and sort of share their experiences that you can build on. In sales, so it sounded like someone took you under their wing and was a mentor to you. In sales, I would imagine if you're in competition with someone, you wouldn't necessarily mentor them. So if someone came in new to your company and in a similar sort of position, would you help them?
No, not particularly.
No,
because you're exactly right. You know, they are your competition in some ways. It depends, of course. You know, it depends on how big the company is, whether their success meant that you were successful. You know, but ultimately you've got a job to do. They've got a job to do. And most small businesses, which I've really kind of worked for, even when they've been bigger companies. So I worked for one that had 3,500 employees, which by most standards is reasonable. Those guys, it was small teams again. You know, break them up into smaller amounts, and you go out and do your thing on a certain area. And even so, you would have someone that was employed that was hopefully experienced to do the job, not a complete trainee. You know, you're not going to send a trainee out to see your big clients. You know, that's the thing. We've never helped each other particularly well.
Yeah, this is the thing. So in the corporate environment, I've talked a couple of times about my success doesn't mean, or someone else's success doesn't mean that it's going to necessarily hit on my success. So we might have different ambitions. We might have but it's interesting in the sales environment. You guys that are all on that same level of going out and selling, did you experience any underhandness? People coming to your area, people selling to your clients?
Oh yeah. If they could get away with it, they would, and they try and make an excuse, of course. And everyone I know has done it. So you know, yes, definitely.
That's interesting, right? Okay, so So you still work as a sales?
Yeah,
as
I
well?
was the sales director up until November 2017. No longer doing that. I was trying to do less and less hours. Is
Oh,
the
right, yeah,
truth of it.
understandable.
And the guy that runs the company wanted to take off in certain directions. He wanted to buy the premises, and that meant obviously him taking on a longer term loan. He's a lot younger than the other guys that were
Okay.
there. So 3 of the directors that were are no longer.
Okay.
They're not directors, so it's gone back to sort of him and his wife to run the company. And so I'm no longer a director, but I'm doing the same job in essence anyway. So.
Right. Okay. Okay. Moving on. Just I've got one more subject I want to talk about, and then we'll do a couple of sort of shorter questions.
Yeah.
So we spoke before we started this that you sort of dabbled in property. Not going into necessarily what you've bought, you can if you want to, but I'm interested to know the skills, the techniques, the sort of attributes of looking after property versus sales.
I never call myself a property person, although I've done sort of half a dozen things in and around property. Including some products for the property guys.
Right, okay.
And then, giving them inspiration. And some of the people we had yesterday at the event, property people,
right.
They're very aspirational, which is good. And, you can tap into the mindset of, we need to do more, we need to do it differently, we need to have other people helping us what we do.
Right.
Because, every solopreneur is doing too much.
Yeah.
So we talked about how to overcome overwhelm, and creating inner confidence, as we said, and just generalised things of entrepreneurial people that want to take the world on and want to do great things, but ultimately try and do it on their own.
Yeah.
And how teams win the game. Yeah. Not one person.
Agreed. So from a property person.
Yes.
They might have their own team. They might have their builders. They might have their own surveyor, or not people that they have relationships with, surveyors or estate agents. So actually, to be an effective property expert, it's relationships again, isn't it?
Yes, and property is a relationships business that involves bricks and mortar and stuff like that. Involves buildings. So, but ultimately, someone will have to buy that building, live in that building, work in that building. Whether it's commercial or residential. Ultimately, it's going to involve a person, and you might have to have sales. Because the offshoot of a lot of the property people that's been successful is mentoring, or if not training people how to do certain things and certain techniques. So they make a good bit of money doing that kind of stuff as well. But the good thing about property is that when things are going well, and they don't always go well, of course. I remember about early 90s, we was in huge negative equity with one of the places that we had, and £55,000 I think we made on it in the end, but it went up over about a 12-year period. Okay. So when we actually wanted to sell it, it was minus 28,000, I believe, and it went from 12 years later up. So we actually slept every night and got up, and it had gone down, and then up. Yeah. And you're not in control of the market, of course.
And something that I'm learning is actually to play the long game.
Yes.
And I think property, I also think shares and sort of you should be thinking of yourself as a 10-year project rather than the short selling is basically gambling. It's not really investing. So do you think property's taught you patience?
Yeah, I think so. From the point of view of where we were to where we are now, you couldn't envisage it when I was in the negative equity. And we become accidental landlords, and somebody else was renting our place out, and we were losing money every month. So you can envisage that the property market in London had like a 20-year period where it just went up every year, sometimes not greatly. But in 1 or 2 years, incredibly well.
So when you were in negative equity,
yes,
I know what I think because I've read about it. What made you keep it? What made you not go, basically being scared and saying, oh, well, I've just got to get rid of it, whatever I can get for it?
I couldn't afford to get rid of it.
Right.
So I can't remember the exact numbers. I think it was 28,000 that we were down. So let's say, for example, I gave them the keys back and said, oh, thank you very much, but I no longer wish to own this property. They said, that's fine, but you still owe us the 28,000.
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah.
So that become an issue, Mark.
Yeah.
I was a young guy. Yeah. We were just about to start a family, but we managed to be able to take on. They weren't giving second mortgages out so much in them days, and we actually got a second mortgage. So we took out, because of the negative equity. That's the reason why they started doing more and more second mortgages.
Yeah.
There might not have been any. I don't know too much about it, but second mortgages became available. We took one out. And we got a family home, started the family, and then of course time and the market started to pick up. Yeah. And then over a longer period of time, that enabled us to move on. We can put now deposits down against other properties. Yeah. And the deposits that you had to put back in them days, if only hindsight's a wonderful thing, if only. Was about 2%, things like that, and you could remortgage same day. There was all sorts of things that I could have done with the knowledge that I've got now.
And this is the thing, we were talking about this earlier on before we came onto the podcast about the way the banks have changed and the way the property business has changed, and 100% mortgages. 07, 08 were definitely doable.
Well, you're right. Yeah.
Nowadays, you're talking a decent chunk of 10-15% deposit.
10%, 25% if you want to be an investor.
Right.
So you've got to put down a huge chunk, especially in London.
Yes. And something I was just listening to last week was it was this property book, Audible book, and they were telling about how to buy on a discount, refurb and resell. Yeah. And I'm sitting there thinking, oh, that's quite interesting. Maybe that's something that I could think about. And then they said in the book, and anyone that lives in London, it's a different kettle of fish. And then it was full stop, and they carried on their story. Now, actually, it's given me knowledge and understanding, but I think the London market, from what I understand, a lot of the perception anyway is that the London market always goes up. Now, I can tell you fact-wise that's not the case. I would say probably London goes up more than maybe other parts of the country. But you said earlier you had a little dabble further in the north of England as well. What was your experience different there?
To be honest with you, we were buying a place and it fell through. And the value is much better. We're looking at a place at the moment as well in the north, and the value is better. If you go, a guy that I know invests in Glasgow, and you can get maybe 15% return. But of course, there's other associated issues. Like the distance. If you ever need to go there, that costs you money, time, and effort. Of course. If you're going to do it hands off, then you need a good team of people that you can trust. And sometimes we were talking about exercise and diet and fitness earlier. I can't even trust myself sometimes, Mark. So how am I going to be trusting other people? So this is the thing. Anything is all of it is possible. Right. All of it is doable. I know a guy that actually makes money from that refurbishment cycle that you were talking about in London.
Right, okay.
So he doesn't have an issue, but he's got a team of people that help him do it. Yeah. He's organised and set up.
And that's not just your builders and your people doing the refurb, that's actually people going out speaking to estate agents and
Don't forget the other side of it, which is money. You can get yourself an estate agent, architects and all those kind of people really quite easily. But what about investors? Yeah. So if you've got a project that comes along, have you got that money in your pocket at the time? No, I haven't. Okay, well, let's go for it. I haven't got. But if you've got knowledge, you can attract investors that say, well, I want a piece of that cake as well.
So just to touch on that, so if someone out there was, whether it was a property or whether it was a business, what's the best way of engaging sort of seed funding or angel investors, the guys at the early stages that are might JV with you for a property, or how would you say the best way to attract those people are?
They've got to know who you are for first thing. So even if you're really at the beginning, small stages, people will buy into your story. Okay. So if you create your story. People know we're on a podcast now.
Yeah.
People get to hear, the things that I've done in the
Yeah.
past and what I've been creating over a period of time.
Yeah.
But from their point of view, if you've got trying to get into the property world, then you get yourself videoed at properties doing whatever you do, the projects that you're doing, and then that becomes known that you're into that style of investing in property, and then you might say that you're looking for investors. If they like you, interested, start at home. Family people, it's easier to get someone in the family, let's say, for example, or friends. And why do they want their money sitting in the bank making 1 or 2%? You know, it's more exciting, much more chances of you making more money. Of course, it doesn't always go right. And if you're learning the business, keep it safe and simple. Show your successes, move on. Attract people. Get things like podcasts. Go on and be a guest on a podcast. Online magazines. Get your own. Podcasting's relatively easy and simple to do. The whole story of creating successful podcasts, that's a bit different. So we were talking about Rob Moore earlier because he was a guest on my show. His podcast, he says he has earned around about £2.3 million worth of trickle down business that goes through to his other business because he's promoting them on his podcast. That's his estimate, possibly plucked out the air slightly, but it's his best guess at what's come to him through that medium.
So again, it's relationships, it's building, going out and speaking to people. We actually met up on a meetup. I think I'm sure that I've not seen them, but I'm sure there's property meetups. There's people.
I go to those.
Yeah,
too.
you go there too. Right. Awesome.
Although I'm not hugely into property, some of these guys are making their living from property. But yeah, I mean. Ultimately, I know what they do because I've gone to a meetup.
Interesting. Right. So we're going to just touch on 2 quicker sort of questions. And obviously, you can, however long you want to explain. The first question is, what was the best decision you've made in your career?
I think the best decision we made, as a family at least, was not to sell that place back in the early 90s. Because a friend of ours did exactly that. They lived in our road. They handed the keys back and paid the bank back the money that they owed. I think theirs was about 14,000 that they had to pay the bank and got nothing for it, of course, So we kept that. That was a really good decision because now that little bit of extra that we made enabled us to grow as a family, bigger and better homes in bigger and better areas. And if you're going to be successful at whatever you do, you want a nice family home, you want to be in a nice area, you want to be safe. Some of the places I used to live in London, I'd be afraid to walk around at night, let's be honest. So I wouldn't want to be there anymore. And we've moved on. So that was a really good decision from us. Good decisions from the point of view of working is when I've changed job. Because when you change job, and I've changed it a few times, not too often, change job and you normally up your money. And it's potential, obviously, of it going wrong, but you can also up your career prospects as well.
So from a very personal point of view, and the people on the podcast know that I've recently handed in my notice, what if you can give me a quick bit of advice on your new job, what would you say, what advice would you give me going into day one? And just a generic piece of advice, if you can think of anything.
I think when you go into your new environment, I think get a feel for what's going on around you. Because there will be dynamics happening with interplay between the personalities which will affect you and you won't know about them. Okay, so the quicker you get a feel for what's actually occurring here, this guy is in a power play with this lady, or this lady doesn't like this person. So, you get that feel for that. Sometimes it ends up you're either going to fight your own corner, stay where you are, or you join a side. Now, sometimes I've even had it with clients of mine. I've sided with a particular client who doesn't like another guy, and it went against me because the one guy that I sided with got the sack. The other guy got the job, so now my business was reduced, and I didn't get the business from them. But I took a side that time. I could have played the middle road, probably suffered in the short term, and maybe gained in the longer term.
But I think you're absolutely right. In sort of dynamics of companies, that first week or two, maybe a month, just listening.
Yes.
Listening, stopping. Don't say too much.
Yeah.
Let people talk to you. And so,
how's the new guy getting on? Will be what's said. And if you've got your head down, getting on with work, they won't be able to say too much about you.
Yeah.
If you've ruffled feathers, you've gone into light and friendly, or you've gone into heavy, and you know, you've made waves. So I think for the first period, you're either going to go one way or the other. You're either going to make waves because you're going to be on a meteoric rise, and it will be shit or bust, dare I say, or you're going to do exactly what you said, play the grey man, stay in the middle, and then you've got a chance to formulate a bit more of a plan.
Yeah. Okay, so the last question that I want to ask you is, what do you still want to achieve in business or career?
Well, I'm 55 this year, and you get that little sense now and again that you need to make a little bit of a mark, you know. So I've done a lot of what, you know, we were talking about just there, a bit more of the grey man, you know, stayed in the middle, doing what I've been doing behind the scenes, carrying on. Never wanted to take any huge promotions. In fact, I've been offered bigger promotions in the past and turned them down.
Right.
So I think I might try and take a few chances, try and do a few things now. So hence the podcast and the magazine and the sales training that I'm doing for people, helping other people with the marketing with my son and helping him out too. All that kind of thing. I want to do a bit more of that because that's been interesting. Right. So I want to do a few more things for myself and do some other stuff that's more interesting.
Right. Okay, perfect. If people wanted to find you, link in with you, have a conversation with you, where's the best place to find you?
Well, they can look me up online, and I'm findable by Transform Your Wealth and Health.
Right.
So anything that's got Transform Your Wealth and Health on it, you can get me through. There's a website, Transform Your Wealth and Health, just put that in. There's the podcast, Transform Your Wealth and Health. We've got a Facebook group, Transform Your Wealth and Health.
Perfect. So there's plenty of ways of being able to
ways of getting me, and also we do have some other ways, like which will be through smaller Facebook groups. So the people that attend the SAMs, the Sales and Marketing Success, we've got our own Facebook group. Okay. It's a closed group just for the people that's attending.
Yeah. Wonderful. Thank you so much, Andy. I really appreciated coming and speaking to you today. So thank you.
No, thank you, Mark.
Just on the last thing, you can check me out on Twitter, on Instagram. You've got the podcast on all the usual places, and you've got YouTube as well. And also, I've just set up fairly recently a website, which is absolutebusinessmindset.com. So please check me out there. Thank you very much.